Start by asking all the members of the board, administration, and community to stand at attention facing the flag with their right hand over their heart to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, everyone. We are going to start the meeting with my very favorite part of every meeting, which is the school spotlight on Everett.
Now? Oh, perfect. All right, awesome. Is that too loud? Okay, excellent. We've got Nicholas Testweed and Brant Lamy here with us, and they are willing to share a little bit about some exciting things that we've had happen at Everett recently. This was something that we put into place last year, and then Krista Testweed just gave us the idea. We are Lake Forest, so why wouldn't we have a tree philosophy? So as we go through this, thank you, she's in marketing if anyone wants to know. We have this isn't an interesting metaphor. It came up last year when we were talking about shifting the balance on our teams. We at Everett had so many different learning styles, different behaviors, different needs. And when we talk about an inclusive environment, some of the things that we noticed at Everett was we had such talented teachers, and their teams were balanced with incredible talent of all the same type of talent on one grade level team. And so we started looking at the different styles of learners that we had and the different styles of teaching talent that we had. And so one day I remember sitting in my office and we were talking about the different teacher styles and the different learning styles, and somehow we were sitting there and I started likening it to trees. So perfect for Lake Forest, but I'm going to ask you how you might identify and what type of a student or learner or person you are. So I'm going to quickly describe our 3 trees that we identified as our teacher styles, and then this is how we balanced each team. So currently each grade level team at Everett has one of these types of teacher on each grade level team. So the first one is an oak tree, and the way we describe an oak tree at Everett is it's a teacher that is very traditional, very rooted in some structure and just traditional learning styles. And you know who that is. We have a lot of students who are guessing who these teachers are. So strong, can withstand a lot of wind and the time. And so that is one style of teacher. We also have palm trees. Palm trees are teachers that have more of a flexible nature about them. Maybe you are in a classroom. We had some learning walks today. As we were walking in and out of classrooms, I pointed out to our guests, this is a palm tree classroom. You are now in a palm tree classroom. I also like to say the palm tree teacher may also be the grower of the coconuts. I am one of them. But this is where you have a lot of flexible learning spaces. Maybe there are students who are in the back of the room because they need to be walking around, but learning is taking place nonetheless. And our third style we identified were teachers that were very much a bonsai tree, very calm, a quiet voice, dim lighting, maybe music playing in the background, but maybe for those students who needed a quieter space because they had sensory issues or a lot of stimulation or a lot of noise affected their ability to learn. So we have 2 friends with us, Nicholas and Brant, and they have talked about this. We've talked about this with their parents, and we talked about how we have purposely made these shifts to really hone in on the needs of our students. And so they have been placed into different classes based on some of their needs, and moms and dads talk to me about saying, this has been life-changing. I may be exaggerating a little. Well, you're nodding. Yes, okay. So, gentlemen, would you like to say anything to our audience, anything about why you love your classes, or if you even want to say what you identify as? Nicholas, you want to go first? Come on up here. You can talk right into the microphone.
What was I?
Did you want to say that Mrs. Vanderveer was inspiring?
Yeah. Mrs. Vanderveer was very inspiring to me, and yeah.
And Nicholas is in Mrs. Vanderveer's third grade classroom. We consider Mrs. Vanderveer being very much a bonsai classroom. I believe we were in her classroom today. It's very calm. She speaks with a very quiet, beautiful, loving voice. And all teachers, if we can add, have a little bit of every tree in them. But these are just some of the really outstanding characteristics that they can identify as. And Brant, do you want to come up and talk about your teacher and your class and what you love about your class? Brant's wearing Everett kicks as well. Come on up here, Brant.
My teacher, wait, I gotta think.
That's okay. Brant is in Mrs. Samala's class at this time. And I know Brant, do you want to come up? Come on up, Mrs. Lamy. No, that's wonderful. Come on down.
So Brant is obviously in a palm tree classroom.
Obviously.
And we have just really loved it. We moved here 2.5 years ago from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Brant was in a Catholic school down there, and right before we left, it all exploded. OT, PT, all the things. And Dr. Fitzsimmons and Everett and our teachers that we've had so far have just been amazing. They have helped Brant so much. You know, sometimes he does better sitting on a bench in the front of the room and learning, and he's totally focused, totally engaged. There's no issue. And Miss Samala is like, you want to sit on a bench? Sit on a bench. You want to sit in a rocking chair? Sit in a rocking chair. So there's order. I mean, you go in there, there's order in her room. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, but she helps those who might need a little more adjustments to their
Like me.
to their space. So we're so thankful.
Well, we love it. And what we love is that we are redefining what learning can look like, and that there is learning style and a shift in mindset from adults and students, and that every student is capable of great things and great learning. So we're thrilled about that. And also, one of the things that we've noticed is that at this time in 2023, we had 453 behavior documentation reports at this time. And this year, we had 307 behavior documentations, which is a significant and noticeable decrease of 32%. We've also seen incredible growth at Everett. So Everett is above the thick gray line, and you can see that we've had incredible growth to the point where at this time we have the highest ELA proficiency in the district, and then we have the second highest math proficiency, and we're extremely proud of that. We feel that mindset, comfortability, finding a place for every student on every team, reduction in behavior incidents has really improved our performance overall. So we're extremely proud of this, and we have amazing families who are supportive and amazing students and friends. So thank you for listening to our spotlight on our amazing children and Everett community. Any questions for us? Oh, yes, oh, yes, hold on one second, I forgot, thank you. We are also all wearing our Love for Livy pins, so thank you to Mrs. Adamo, was it Mrs. Adamo, and then Mrs. Yon, who brought these all for us. If you would like one, please reach out to any of us. We've got plenty for you, and there also is a QR code on the back of the little sheet if you'd like to contribute to Olivia Rubeck and the Everett community. We're very thankful for her, and we're praying for her and her family. Thank you. Brant would like to say something.
I think that the oak tree is Miss Bannock. Is it?
It's all a secret.
I'm wondering what my children would say I am, but I'm not going to ask. I would love for you all to come up to take a picture with us, if that's okay. take the snacks, please.
Before you guys leave, I want to say one thing. First of all, thank you, Nicholas and Brant, for coming and talking to us. That was really going to be the highlight of the evening. But secondly, I just think this is such a wonderful thing that you're providing this type of information at such a young age to students and parents, because the best thing that anybody can do is learn what works for them, and then allows for them to advocate for themselves as learners as they grow and move on to different stages of their life. So wonderful job.
Thank you. I'm Krista Testweed, Nicholas's mom, and I just wanted to say thank you to Renee and her staff, the amazing teachers, but also the proactive, personal commitment that they have each and every day has really meant so much to us, to our family, and we have one Everett alumni in the Nicholas in third grade, and the way, just the listening, the understanding each of the students and their needs is so commendable and really helps them thrive. And Nicholas is doing amazing. He's on the student leadership team, and his couple years of just really growing quite a bit. And if you can probably appreciate that on the student leadership team, he has advocated for more recess time, right? Right. So the really, really important things. But it just says a lot for that personal approach with the tree philosophy, and I think it's fantastic. It's commendable. It's respected, and I really think it's just phenomenal for the community and all the students at Everett, and for us to see that kind of growth. So thank you to Renee and her staff and all the teachers. Thank you to you.
All right, I'm going to move into our president's report. Good evening, everyone. Our board has had a very busy few weeks, and I wanted to share a few highlights with all of you this evening. First, a big thank you to all of my fellow board members who participated in a board retreat last week. The purpose of our retreat was to identify ways in which we could operate better together as a board, and also develop a clear list of board goals that would help provide direction both to us and to the administration as we move forward in implementing our strategic plan. It was a reminder to me of what a thoughtful and dedicated group of volunteers my fellow board members are. We still have some follow-up work to do, but hope to have a set of goals to adopt at a meeting in June. I had written June or July, but I'm going to say June. In terms of overall board performance, we will also be breaking into smaller groups to assess how we can conduct better self-assessments and meetings, how we can work more effectively in committees, how we can do a better job of soliciting feedback from the community, and how we can effectively onboard new school board members. All of this work will be done with the ultimate goal and vision of improving outcomes for all of the children in our District 67 schools. Another notable event from the last week was that on April 15th, Moody's Investment Services once again reaffirmed the district's AAA bond rating. This is the 14th consecutive year that District 67 has received this agency's highest possible assessment, and a reminder that disciplined financial management remains a bedrock of our school district. Our reaffirmed rating follows Moody's rigorous review and assessment of the district audited financials, and our accounting practices, budgeting, fund balance, fiscal oversight by the board, and the support we received from our community. Responding to a Moody's review and getting to this level as an organization is no small task. So I wanted to take a moment to especially recognize our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Jennifer Hermes, and our team in the business office, not only for the Herculean efforts that they, I know, undertook in responding to a review, but also for the everyday steady hand, day in and day out, that they use in thoughtfully managing the district's finances. Our AAA rating is awarded for long-term, consistent, and fastidious fiscal management. Those in our business office quietly and tirelessly do this work, one line item at a time, and I have seen the work they do. It is very meticulous and thorough. This level of care and attention allows us to serve as responsible stewards for our community's tax dollars and ultimately benefits the students of District 67. So tonight, on behalf of your Board of Education, I want to express our most sincere thanks to you, Dr. Ermes, and every member of your team. Together, you support us in keeping the promise of responsible fiscal management to our community, and we are very grateful for everything that you do. And that's my report.
Thank you guys again for coming. Okay, moving right along, we'll jump into the superintendent's report. I have a few topics for you tonight, from an update on Amplify, finishing with just a reminder of how quickly we are approaching 8th grade graduation, which is hard to believe that we're this far in the school year. We are nearly finishing the end of our first year implementation of Amplify. Amplify CKLA, remember, is the curriculum for grades K through 5. And we are reflecting, as recent as yesterday at Institute Day, collecting data from our staff to get their feedback on how they think everything went this year, what changes we need to make, and then closely looking at the data, some of which what Renee or Dr. Fitzsimmons shared earlier of how we're tracking progress, not only in proficiency, but also in growth. As we look at why we're doing this, remember, we are implementing core tenets of both language comprehension and word recognition, embedding love of reading through the science of reading. And this graphic some of you have seen before, either in Ed Committee or in previous presentations from Vail Keyser, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. As we matriculate from 5th grade, instead of Amplify CKLA, it's just Amplify at this point, but we are tightening the rope, so to speak, is the analogy they use, building on those skills, and we will see this program get stronger and stronger as our students graduate from each grade and they become more and more comfortable with this curriculum and the way in which it's presented. Ultimately, we are moving towards fluency, and this program allows not only alignment to our standards, which is one of the major core tenets of why we chose it, but also embeds in those skills that will support Tier 1 learners through many different avenues to make sure that they are getting exposure to the curriculum and at the rigor that they deserve. This example here is a 7th grade Amplify poetry unit on Edgar Allan Poe. You can see the vocabulary, which I thought was a very clever play on words as they're diving deep into the vocabulary within the poem. There are different options in which students can demonstrate mastery. So, for example, one option offered students to continue doing like a reader's theory and writing tasks. Another option presented maybe a slightly more challenging route where they included writing Poe short stories from new perspectives and a deeper analysis. There was an even more advanced route, which is looking at debate and putting the narrator of The Telltale Heart on trial, where students were encouraged to choose the option that suited them best for the enrichment challenge. So within the curriculum, there are levels of complexity that are meeting all needs from all of the myriad of learning types that we have within 67. In addition to this first year, we continue to scaffold our support in two major areas on top of the general curriculum, and one is differentiation, and there's debates on how do we differentiate this curriculum, as rigorous as it is, to make sure that all students have access, and we're having active discussions about how to continue to fine-tune the ways in which we can not only go higher if a student needs a more challenging environment, but scaffolding those students who would need more support to access the rich curriculum. And then we are also spending time looking at how we are presenting a writing curriculum that our teachers and our faculty can implement with fidelity that is tracking progress of our students as writers, and I can see firsthand the progress we're making already, and that will just continue to get stronger. But it's something that we're developing our staff on, and we are coaching our staff. That will not stop beyond this first year. It'll just continue to become more and more fine-tuned. I wanted to make sure that people are aware that we have a Parent-Teacher Behavior Intervention Committee, and this is something that has been in place, but behavior has been a topic of discussion in many different mediums, so we want to make sure that this option is advertised, that 67 is currently updating the student handbook in partnership with this committee, and the committee is composed of parents, teachers, administrators, and it's focusing on reviewing policies and procedures regarding behavior management, students' rights, responsibilities, and consequences in alignment with board policy. If anyone is interested in serving on the Parent-Teacher Behavior Intervention Committee, applications for 24-25 school year will open on Wednesday, May 1st. More information will follow in the building newsletters as well as on the website. I am thrilled to report that this morning we had our first learning walk. And learning walks are an idea that we came up with about how to create access to what's happening in the buildings for our community. Many people wonder what's happening during the school day outside of parties where parents are coming in or maybe reading to your student's class. We're trying to create avenues into the classroom to further develop those partnerships with the Board of Education as well as members from the community. In this first series, we are focusing on members from the Board of Education and the Superintendent Advisory Committee. So we had 5 members of the Superintendent Advisory Committee with us today in Everett. Dr. Fitzsimmons designed an experience where there was a tour of the building, then we broke into 3 different groups, and we each saw 4 different classrooms of varying levels throughout the building. And then we finished with something that at last minute, she had a panel planned at the last half an hour of the experience. And then last Friday I said, I hope you're including students. And she said, absolutely, we're going to make that happen. So they love when I have great ideas. It just means more work for them. But we had 3 student leaders on the panel as well. And I will tell you the conversations with the Superintendent Advisory Committee, with the faculty and the students was incredible. And I think the Superintendent Advisory Committee walked away with a deeper understanding of what's happening within the Everett community during the school day. The next learning walk is on May 16th, and it will be at Sheridan. Next fall, we will visit Cherokee, 2 visits to DPM, and then we will also have several visits at the high school, because remember, the Superintendent Advisory Committee encompasses both families from 65, 67, and 115. This is an outreach exercise, and I think gives us a great opportunity to gather feedback from our constituents. Tomorrow night, another opportunity for feedback is with our spring community coffee with our board presidents. That will be at the Gorton Center from 6:30 to 7:30. There will be Annie, John Noble, myself, Dr. Leonard is usually in attendance as well. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that our community has on any topic that they should present. If we don't know the answers, we will find them and we will get back to those individuals as soon as possible. I wanted to share that next year I am also participating. I did this this year, where I had an incoming group of 8th graders from 67 sign up for LFHS Reads, which is a program where they do a summer reading program with different faculty members in the district. I did it with Jacqueline last year on a book, and we just focused on incoming freshmen. This year, we picked a new book, and Elizabeth and I picked it as an incoming freshman, but we've opened it up to anybody in the high school faculty and student body can read this. This is a book I'm excited about reading. As the bibliophile you know I am, I looked at the New York Times bestseller for adolescents, and then we read the reviews, and then shared them with the librarian to see if we could get clearance. And this one seems like it is going to be quite the compelling read. It's like a mystery, and we're excited about that. And I had to get clearance from both teenagers in my life, because both of them now are allowed to participate. One sister had to ask the other for permission, but that's a story for another day, which I enjoyed watching. 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go to the Harvard Graduate School of Education to attend an institute for superintendent and district leaders. It was phenomenal learning. I have the privilege of serving as an ambassador between the National Superintendent's Organization and Harvard, and this institute focused on many topics. The one that I'm sharing information immediately with our staff is around learning walks and instructional rounds, and essentially what we should look for when we walk in a classroom. And it's all honed in on the task in which we are assigning students. So when you walk in a classroom, we can talk about whatever we want at the board table. We can talk about whatever we want at the cabinet level. We can, for example, we can talk about the portrait of a learner. We can talk about the new reading curriculum. We can talk about rigor. But if it's not seen in the classroom tasks, it's not really happening. And I thought that was powerful research that reaffirmed my belief system, but I'm sharing it far and wide right now about how we are assigning tasks, the rigor of those tasks, because the research right now, according to the PISA score, saying that as students get higher up in the grade bands, and I'm probably lecturing you right now, so I'm sorry, I'll stop soon, but not yet. The higher we get in the grade bands, the lower the assignments are that we're offering students. So for an 8th grade student, on a national average, you are seeing 7th or 6th grade assignments. Now, that's not uniform to us, but know that on a national lens, as it gets more complicated in terms of grade bands, the assignments aren't matching where they should be, and that's where you get in conversations of, are we inflating grades, are we not inflating grades, what's the authenticity of the task, are we assigning rigor? And I think we saw that when we moved from the previous curriculum to this curriculum with Amplify, of just how much more difficult it is for our students. And I believe that's because this is aligned to the rigor that we should be according to the grade band that we're assigning it. It's a paradigm shift, but you're wrestling with, what bar are we setting for children? And are we setting it artificially low? And then how to bridge that gap. I had the opportunity to talk to Ellen Galinsky, who is the author of the Breakthrough Years. That was last week, I think, on Tuesday maybe. They posted it on the YouTube, the YouTube, sound like a boomer, on YouTube, on the FAN network. And I will tell you, it was a powerful conversation. And if you haven't read the book, I would recommend that you take a look at it. And it is more focused on parents than it is on educators, although there's correlates, of course. The biggest takeaway from this book is that we should listen to our young people more. And you will hear me talk about some changes we're already making, embodying that. It was also part of the Harvard work about how we should be listening to our students and to our children, and trying to remember how we were thinking in those ages, and not use an adult yardstick on adolescence. And I thought that was a powerful takeaway. I will finish with our students who are moving forward, which is through 8th grade graduation, Tuesday, May 28th, right after Memorial Day at the Fieldhouse. It's always a wonderful event. And I am, because of what I shared previously, in May I will be holding focus groups with 8th graders to listen to their experience. And I'm also going to be asking them quite poignantly, tell me what you want adults to know about your experience and your future, and how can we better support you? And then I will use that feedback to incorporate it into the short speech I give at 8th grade graduation. Sorry I took as long as I did, but there's a lot of information to share. Thank you for your kind attention.
Any follow-up? I had 2 questions. First of all, how are you gathering feedback from the walkthroughs or the learning walks? Is that what we're calling them? How is that being gathered and reported back? I mean, I think our group would be really interested in hearing about the outcomes of those and the feedback that you are getting.
So today we had, oh gosh, there were so many administrators there. So Dr. Fitzsimmons was there, Mrs. Oakley was there, Dr. McHugh was there, I was there, as well as members from the district level. So we were listening to the questions that they were asking. Some of it was, they were asking direct questions to the students. We haven't discussed, what I was going to do is have Renee and Jeff create a short summary of what we heard and then put it in the weekly update so you can not only see where they visited each time they go, and then also the themes that we heard, so all board members know. My hope is that each one of you has an opportunity to go on at least one, and then also looking at, after we do go through the first cycle, what happens next. But it would be weekly update feedback, but it would be qualitative summaries of the questions that those people in attendance asked the panel at the end of the experience. And Renee had about a half an hour baked into panel experience at the end, after everybody went through each 4 of the classrooms.
Matt, did you want to share what one of the gentlemen said on the way out?
You're going to have to jog my memory. It's been a very long day, Dr. McHugh.
He was a community member. He didn't have anybody in the school system. Renee, I don't know if I'm going to get this right. As he walked out, he said, "This has restored my faith in the public education system." Is that? Yeah, he said, everyone needs to see this. I'm going to go out and tell everybody in the community. And that's important because we have 70 to 80% of our community members don't have kids in the school. But I think this is really, we're onto something with this.
That's great. And then my second question is, I had to pause it when you said that that nationally, not necessarily we, are giving work to 7th or to 7th and 8th graders that is not up to where their level should be. I guess it's more of a comment that when we did have our board retreat last week, one of the things we talked about was high school readiness. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head with the fact that if students aren't getting the type of challenging and high-level work in 7th and 8th grade that they need to, then they're going to have a really hard time making the jump to high school expectations. So I think that's something that we as a board definitely all agree that we need to focus on.
I couldn't agree more, and I will share out the data. I can't stress enough that I think the change to Amplify, course-corrected RELA, and the change to illustrative math for 6 through 8 also did the same thing. It is an area of focus for us and will remain an area of focus, so I'm thrilled to hear that the board said the same thing because it is on our radar too.
The board will now hear public comment subject to board policy 2230. And before I get into the rules around that, is there anybody here who is here to make any public comment? Okay. We now will move on to reports, starting with committee reports from the Education Committee.
Thank you. We had our last education meeting of the year, so this is the last report you'll hear from me. Carl is excited that he won't hear from me anymore. We had some curriculum updates that came up in this one. They didn't meet the threshold budget-wise for board approval, but I think they're interesting and good to know about. So the first one was an update to the Spanish curriculum for grades K through 8. We've been using the same Spanish curriculum since 2007. And teachers have done a good job of adding to it and supplementing it. The new resource puts everything that the teachers have been doing under one resource, which is really nice to have. This isn't necessarily needed for a change in proficiency. For Spanish, our kids are doing pretty well, but it's just putting it all in one place. The costs around this are mostly related to textbooks. It's about $18,000 for that, and then there's also a digital hub that's included. And we'll need an annual renewal for that. The second thing we talked about was an update to Bridges Math. we're transitioning to new Bridges, so it's kind of an enhancement, not a replacement of the math curriculum. We've been using Bridges for 10 years. The teachers are really familiar with it. People like it. With neighboring districts, it seems to be the curriculum everyone either is starting to adopt or uses because it's generally regarded as the best one. And Bridges is used K through 4, 5, Jeff? And 6 through 8 is illustrative math. K through 5. So the news, it just has updated lessons and some digital components that will help us to collect data on student performance, which will help us gather some of the metrics that we want. The total cost for this is around $13,000, and it's mostly related to transition kits because teachers can keep their current materials and keep using that. This is just an enhancement. The other thing we talked about is a future STEM curriculum, and I think this is for next year. Matt? The STEM is for next year? Okay. It would be across all grades. Right now, there's some component of STEM kind of embedded in classes, but it's really up to the teacher and the grade as to how it's implemented. So this would create some consistency across all the classes and all the grades. They're currently evaluating which one is best. There are 2 leading contenders, and I know they've done some site visits. They both sound really interesting. I think there's some exciting components to both of them. So we'll be looking to adopt something for that for next year.
I will only add that Dr. Fitzsimmons is presenting to Cabinet next week on their recommendation, and then we will share information out with all of you. But this speaks to what I talked about maybe December, about shifting now that we're getting closer to where we want to be with ELA and math, a renewed focus on STEM.
Yeah, the final thing, I just wanted to share the quote that I had in the committee. I started the year with the quote from Ted Lasso, and I ended with a quote from Brene Brown that's kind of similar in nature. And that quote is, "A brave leader is someone who says, I see you, I hear you, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to keep listening and asking questions." So much like I asked of our Ed committee, I would encourage everyone here to continue to be brave leaders.
Thank you. That would be a good mantra for our board. I believe I'm tasked with reporting on the policy committee. We haven't met yet, but we just set a meeting for May 21st. I'm looking at Tiana, I think that's right. We will be meeting probably here in the evening. It was just set today, so I apologize for not having the details, where we will talk through the most current press report, which generally speaking includes updates that either to current laws or other things that we need to tweak in our existing board policies. So we will give a more fulsome report after that meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Mark Remus for a legislative report.
So at last month's board meeting, I previewed a few legislative bills that we were monitoring. So I just want to give you an update on those, as well as one more that received some attention over the past month. The 2 bills, and I should mention that I've discussed this with Matt and his team and gotten their thoughts in advance as well. The 2 issues that we looked at previously were, one, there was a bill looking at additional state funding for newcomers. Newcomers are not having a material impact on this district, so we don't really have a horse in that race. So we see no need to get involved at this point in time. Another issue was state funding for special education. That bill appears to be on track, making its way, and everything appears to be in good shape. So no need to get involved on that one either. Finally, some of the other board members may have seen some of the IASB communications over the past month about some legislation that was going to mandate specific teacher planning time. That bill has now been watered down, and they're going to confer over the summer, so it's not as pressing as it once was, so no need for any advocacy on that bill either.
Questions? Okay. We actually only have one action item this evening, which is the adoption of Spanish resources that Monica just presented on. May I have a motion to adopt the Spanish resources? And I'm going to admit that I don't speak Spanish here. So Alba y Gael, did I say it right? for grades 2 to 4 and Authentico for grades 5 to 8.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions about this?
I just wanted to get a little bit of background on, on the curriculum itself, how you guys arrived at actually selecting this curriculum for our district.
So it's been 20 years since we've had a new Spanish curriculum, which again, as I think Monica, you said in your report, that sounds like a really long time. Our Spanish teachers have been doing a lot to augment the curriculum. I think in 2019, there were new world language standards that came out, and they focus on, there's 3 modes of communication. There's interpersonal, interpretive, and presentational. These materials align to that. So it really equips the teachers to have built in order to meet those instead of making their own. And Vale Kieser, our Director of Teaching and Learning, worked with the Spanish teachers to arrive at this. So this was something the Spanish department, they've been asking for a couple years, so they were really involved in the selection of this, trialing it, and they're completely behind it. In fact, I think did they come to Ed Committee? They wanted to come to Ed Committee, yeah. So we've got the teachers behind it, it's standards-based, and they're excited.
And I just, as we talk about readiness to high school, how does this work with their programming? Was that something that was taken into consideration?
Yes, and 115 is standards-based also. Drea Serrato is the department chair there, and I believe Vale talked to her also, because we really are trying to make sure we have vertical articulation with the high school. Neither of these resources are for the high school, but they should align so it'll feed right in there, especially because some of those 7th and 8th grade Spanish classes translate to the high school, and we want to make sure. So yes, we do have that articulation.
If there are no other questions, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelberg?
Yes.
Ms. Levert?
Aye.
Ms. Yan?
Yes.
Mr. Remus?
Yes.
Mr. Carrar?
C.
Ms. Bernal?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That might have been a first, yeah. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, sorry. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a board member. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including approval of Miller Cooper contract renewal, approval of disbursements, payrolls, and financial statements from February 2024, approval of the human resources report, including hires, contract approvals, leaves of absence, resignations, changes of assignment, stipends, activities, athletics, test prep assignments, and summer school hires, and approval of the 2024-2025 board meeting calendar.
Could we take off items 1 and 4?
Absolutely.
And 4. 1 and 4.
Can we continue with approving the rest of the consent agenda, and then we can go back to them? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve everything except for items 1 and 4?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Levert?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Bernal?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Ms. Engelberg?
Yes.
Ms. Yan?
Yes.
Mr. Remus?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, then we will move on with the approval of the Miller Cooper contract renewal. Do I need a motion now to approve that? Okay, may I have a motion to approve it? Well, usually we do a motion first and then we ask questions.
So moved.
May I have a second? I can show you my script. I do it with every.
Second.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now does anybody have any questions about this particular document?
Yes, if you could just talk about this. It says contract renewal, but it's a little bit out of order because it's a renewal to an expiring contract. And if you could talk about the necessity to do that and the next steps of what we're going to do with the audit service, just for full clarification. We talked about it in the ops meeting, but I don't know that all the board members had a full description of the work that's ongoing and the intention of moving forward. So if you could maybe clarify that, Jen.
I'd be happy to do so. Really, I would call it an extension as well because it is on an expiring contract. What we talked about at the committee is, although we have no concerns with Miller Cooper as a company, they actually do what we think is phenomenal work. They're very detailed. They're very focused. They're a great support with us as well, so we can reach out to them proactively with questions to make sure that we're doing things correctly. So they've been a great partner. Having said that, we have not bid this service since 2019. So this is kind of the expiration of 5 years, and so it was determined that we should go out to bid. When you're bidding auditing services in particular, you don't want to be late in the season because they already put their calendars together. So the plan is, and as outlined in the memo, is to do that in the summer, so the summer of '24, so that we get in a decent queue to be on for, you do a kind of a pre-audit, so they come out usually in May and June, and then you get to have a better selection of when they come out to do the full on-site audit, which is typically around August or September. So in order to not jeopardize where we would be in the queue, we're going to push that RFP so it occurs in the summer.
And Miller Cooper also does District 115's audit?
They do, and we also, they were somewhat indifferent on going out to bid. They were happy either way, but there is a financial benefit of us bidding together because we get a discount because they come out and do both at the same time. So they simultaneously will be asking us for documents from one, while maybe asking us questions for the other, so they can better mobilize their teams. So there's some efficiency to be gained.
Thank you.
The 115 board agreed to go to RFP for this too? Do we have to agree with them?
You don't have to agree with them. You can each independently do your extension, but they were fine if we wanted to go to RFP, but the idea did originate at 67. And our end, we kind of want you to go together because we can't do this with two different firms at the same time. That would be near impossible.
Just going to make a comment. Thank you for clarifying. I was actually going to ask the same thing about going out to bid, so I appreciate you outlining that for us.
Anything else? All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelberg?
Yes.
Ms. Bernal?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Yan?
Yes.
Ms. Levert?
Aye.
Mr. Remus?
Yes.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the 2024-2025 board meeting calendar. May I have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So yes, looking through the calendar, my question would be, we know that the election is going to be on April 1st, and I think the law requires us, April 1st of 2025, I think the law requires us to meet and instate the new board members within 40 days. So if we could potentially amend this to add that board meeting to that Tuesday, May 6th, I think that's the date. Really just, we know it's going to be on that first week, so why not just put it on a calendar now?
I'm just asking if 115 is meeting on, that would be their Tuesday, I think.
Can it not be done at the April 22nd meeting?
Law states that it has to be within 40 days, so it could, yes. We generally haven't, or haven't.
Actually, it's the first Tuesday in May. That's interesting. Flicks next year. Always done.
Because we can do it on April 22nd, I would propose that's when we do it, just for the ease of the schedule with both, trying to get us in both different places with 115, but I'll defer to all of you.
Are we talking about 2025? Okay. I just want to make sure. Level set. I was like, April 22nd was yesterday. Okay, so, I mean, also, this can be changed at any time, right? I mean, not at any time, but leading up to the meeting if you all decide that you want to tweak, or if the board decides that it wants to tweak.
That is 115's meeting. Typically, you guys do hold a special meeting to do that process to bring in the new board members. Last year, I believe you guys held it during your regular meeting so that you did not have to have a special meeting, so.
I'm pretty sure that was a standalone meeting that we had.
I think we had a relatively light agenda at that meeting, but it was a meeting.
And
Yes,
I-
we
Yes. I think
loaded
it's-
the front end of the other meetings to offset, so you guys could do that.
I think what happened is we moved up the May meeting for that. So it was a regularly scheduled meeting, and we just had it like May 6th instead of May 22nd or something like that.
Normally, our May meeting's too late for the election definition of what time needs to be regarded to change the board in and out from the election.
I'm willing to support whatever you guys want. I just, if we have an opportunity of putting a date on the schedule, why not put the date on the schedule? I guess it can be the 22nd, but we generally have a full packed April agenda like we did today. So why double up if you don't have to? And then if there's new board members coming on, maybe they're not as educated on items as you want to talk about without being actual board members.
I think the concern, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that there's already a 1:15 meeting scheduled for the the day that you're proposing.
Okay? I'm willing to interrupt their meeting.
Any other feelings on this? Should we move ahead? I don't know, does the calendar need to be adopted today? I mean, I suppose we could go back and look further and put it on next month's agenda, unless it has to be adopted at this meeting?
But I don't think much is going to change between now and a month from now. I guess my recommendation is adopt it as is, because even the schedule that we're adopting says it can be changed. And then we can look at whether or not we need to adjust the calendar as we get closer to 2025.
And if a special meeting is called, you don't usually put this on your calendar. That's just a separate meeting.
The only other thing I'd like to bring up is I know that we traditionally don't have a January meeting, but I know we all kind of felt like maybe we should add one after this last go-around this year, just because there was so much in the February meeting. So maybe that's something else we think about.
I would love to talk further with you about that idea.
Okay, do people would like, well, why don't I just go ahead and call it for a vote, and if it doesn't pass, then we can move on. So may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Carrar?
Really, because we're a year away, why we can't set a date now, it mystifies me, so I'm a no on this one.
Mr. Remus?
Yes.
Ms. Levert?
Aye.
Ms. Yan?
I think yes, because it's still allowed to change, so yes.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Bernal?
Aye.
Ms. Engelberg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. We are moving on to FOIA requests. We have a number of FOIA requests that the administration has received since our last meeting, including from Frank McCormick, Jeff Brincat, Diana Loughton, Parents Care, Jim Tate, L. Lawleit, and Dan O'Neill. And at this point, we will have a second opportunity for public participation. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board at this time?
I do.
Please.
Something very basic. I just want to give a big thanks to our honorable alderperson, Alice Levert. She'll be departing our board fairly soon here, and I just want to say, as a community member, thank you for your 7 years of public service to this board. As a board member, thank you for your mentorship and patience and kindness to me personally, and really and most of all, thank you for your friendship. So I got a small token of my appreciation.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everybody.
And Alice, I know you asked that we not celebrate you at today's meeting, so I purposely didn't include you in my comments, but we look forward to finding a way to thank you properly when at our next meeting.
There will probably, very likely, be a resolution for you at the May 14th meeting that we will invite you to. That
Clearly,
you
I
will
don't get
probably,
the memo on any of this, so I just jumped the gun.
Okay, we will keep the rest of the comments, because we could go on for a very long time about how wonderful Alice is, to the next meeting. In terms of announcements, Wednesday, April 24th, tomorrow, we are going to have a joint board coffee that Dr. Marie, I need coffee, mentioned at Gordon Center. Please join us. Come ask questions. When people have come in the past, it's been a really lively and helpful discussion. I always really enjoy hearing from members of the community, so I hope you can make it. We will have a Finance and Operations Committee meeting on Thursday, May 2nd at 7:30 a.m. here at West Campus. And then our next Board of Education meeting will be on May 14th at 7 p.m. here at West Campus.
Can I just say one thing, too? I wanted to acknowledge in the HR report that we passed, I believe Renee Fitzsimmons and Phil Georgia were included in that. So congratulations to you for making it official.
Congratulations. Okay. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn the City of Lake Forest School District 67 Board meeting for April 23rd, 2024?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
aye.